Back when I was living in Rome, I came across this little bookstore just around the Pantheon that sold this giant colouring map of the city. Now, I've been meaning to make a video about Rome for quite some time now, and I thought this map was just a perfect opportunity to do so. In this video, I will colour the map with pens and pencils while explaining some of the history behind the monuments that we will be visiting today. I hope you will enjoy it. This is the map that we will be using today. It's a giant colouring map of Rome. Rome, the eternal city. Discovered the gladiators, the Colosseum, the Circus Maximus, the Capitoline she-wolf, the Vatican, the Mouth of Truth, pasta, pizza, ice cream, and a bunch more surprises. Have fun while learning, and I hope this is exactly what we will do today. We have a little sign here that reads SPQR, Senatus Populusque Romanus, the Senate and the Roman people. This was the mantra of both the Roman Republic and the Roman Empire. As you can see, the map is indeed quite big. It's 100 centimeters, so a meter on 70 centimeters. We can already see some of the monuments that we will be coloring today. Once again, giant coloring map stimulates imagination and creativity. Color with your family, your friends, or alone. Have fun while discovering new places. The paper is high quality to color with pens, pencils, or crayons. You decide. As you can see, the map was made in 2017, therefore it's completely AI-free. The colors that we can see are yellow and purple, and those are the colors of Rome. You can see it on the jersey for the Roma soccer team. Well, without further ado, let's get to it. I want to start our little tour of Rome with the Piazza Navona. Now, Piazza Navona might not be the most iconic place of Rome, but it's one of my favorite. A close friend of mine used to live nearby, and this is where we would most often go out for a drink or an afternoon snack. Though Piazza Navona closely resembles some other Roman places with its many restaurants and huge fountains, it's also very distinctive through its iconic oval shape. In 85 AD, during the height of the Roman Empire, Emperor Domitian commissioned a stadium made specifically for athletic games and competitions. Unlike the round theatres of the time, the stadium was built in an oval shape. After the fall of the Roman Empire, the stadium was slowly abandoned, then destroyed, leading to the creation of a piazza in its stead. This not only explains the peculiar oval shape of Piazza Navona, but also the many arches of the buildings that surround it. Both are direct legacies of what was once the Stadium of Domitian. The Piazza Navona, however, found its current shape under the pontificate of Pope Innocent X during the 16th century. With the help of architect Francesco Borromini, he built the Palazzo Pamphili for his family on Piazza Navona. With the help of the same architect, he also rebuilt an old church from the 8th century. This church had been dedicated to a young saint martyred in the 1st century in the Stadium of Domitian. This church was the Church of St. Agnes. Both the Church of St. Agnes and the Palazzo Pamphili are some of the most impressive examples of Baroque architecture in Rome. The church is very notable for its impressive dome, and its facade was partially inspired by old scratched plans for the San Pietro Basilica, the main church of Vatican City. The Piazza Navona is also very well known for its 3 massive fountains that adorn its center. My personal favorite is the Fontana dei Quattro Fiumi, the Fountain of the 4 Rivers, which was made by students of Gian Lorenzo Bernini. Bernini was also a very famous architect of the 16th century. He was a very famous enemy of Borromini, the architect that built the Palazzo Pamphili and the Church of St. Agnes on the same piazza. The 4 rivers metaphorically depicted are the Danube, the Ganges, the Nile, and the Rio del Plata. Each one of them represents one of the 4 continents known at the time of the fountain's construction. Europe for the Danube, Asia for the Ganges, Africa for the Nile, and the Americas for the Rio del Plata. Due to the rivalries between Borromini and Bernini students, it is said that the statue representing the Rio del Plata on the fountain is raising his hand towards the Church of St. Agnes to conjure its fall. Now, I don't really know if this intention was correct on the part of Bernini students, but it adds a nice layer of interpretation to what is overall a very beautiful fountain. The next place I want to show you on our little tour of Rome is the Pantheon. Now, the Pantheon is very famous for being the best preserved antique ruin of Rome. It was first built 2,000 years ago by General Agrippa in 27 AD. General Agrippa was a very close friend of the very first Emperor of Rome, Octavius Augustus. The Pantheon used to be a temple dedicated to all of the gods of Roman mythology. Its name derives from the Greek Pantheon, literally meaning all of the gods. Above the entrance, we can still read the original inscription: Marcus Agrippa Lucii Filius Consul tertium fecit, meaning Marcus Agrippa, son of Filius, consul for the third time, built this. After a few fires that damaged the Pantheon, it was rebuilt under Emperor Hadrian, who gave it the shape that we still see today with the very big dome. Just like most ancient buildings, the Pantheon fell to ruins after the fall of the Roman Empire and its sack during the barbaric invasions of Rome. However, after some minor reconstructions, the temple that was once one of the major pagan temples of Rome was consecrated as a Catholic church dedicated to all of the martyrs. Ever since the Renaissance, the Pantheon has also been used as a tomb for famous and important figures of Italian history. This includes the painter Raphael and some of his pupils, but also two kings of Italy, Vittorio Emanuele II, most famous for unifying Italy, and Umberto I and his wife. Our next stop is the Colosseum. I do believe the Colosseum is the most famous monument of Rome, and it has been for many centuries now. It's a symbol of the city's past glory, mainly due to its impressive size. The Colosseum is the largest amphitheater ever built during the Roman Empire. Most scholars think it could welcome almost 50,000 spectators, which is actually more than the capacity of the Chase Field Stadium in Phoenix, Arizona, for example. The Colosseum was built during the reign of the Flavian emperors, hence its Latin name, Amphitheatrum Flavium. The name that we know and use today comes from the Latin word colossus. This word, meaning big or gigantic, was used to refer to a statue of Nero that was located very close to the building of the amphitheater. Throughout the ages, the word stopped referring to the statue and started being used to refer to the amphitheater itself. It's still the word we use today when talking about the Colosseum. The Colosseum has known many different uses during its early life. Of course, the most famous are the gladiatorial games, an antique form of WWE brawls where most combats were scripted and gladiators were empire-wide celebrities. This historical vision is quite far from the vision that the general public has today, but gladiators rarely risked their lives in the arena. They were considered athletes, and athletes were very well regarded in ancient Rome. Actually, the highest earning athlete of all time was a Roman charioteer. His name was Gaius Appius Diocles. Adjusted in today's currency, he earned approximately $15 billion throughout his time as a charioteer in the Colosseum. Another use for the Colosseum were the naumachia. Those are my favorites, actually. During the naumachia, the Colosseum was filled with water, and contestants would improvise or recreate real naval battles with real historical ships. This would be like filling a football stadium with water to watch people recreate the Battle of Trafalgar with historical ships and costumes. During the Renaissance, the Colosseum was mainly used as a quarry for the numerous palaces that quickly spread in and around Rome. It was later sanctified by Pope Benedict XIV as a place to remember the numerous martyrs that died during the early Christian persecutions. Many of these martyrs were crucified or martyrized inside of the Colosseum. Our last stop on this small tour of Rome is the Vatican. Now, giving a short presentation of the Vatican is quite a tough challenge, and I don't think I can give you all of the information to fully understand the influence of the Vatican and St. Peter's Basilica in the Christian world. But I have decided to give you some of my favorite pieces of information about it. Before becoming the smallest country in the world, the Vatican was actually the necropolis of Rome. This means it was a part outside of the city where people would come to bury their dead, quite like our modern cemeteries. Until the 4th century, many pagan people and early Christians were buried there. The most famous of which is probably Saint Peter. Saint Peter was an apostle of Jesus who came to Rome after the death of the Christ. In 64, a fire almost destroyed the entire city, and the emperor of the time, Nero, blamed it on the early Christian communities. Many people were there crucified, including St. Peter. His body was then buried in the necropolis of the Vatican. In 320, Emperor Constantine, the first Christian emperor of Rome, built the first Basilica of St. Peter right above the necropolis, using what is supposedly St. Peter's tomb as its center. Throughout the 15th and 16th century, the old Constantinian basilica was rebuilt and upgraded. The very important dome was conceived by Michelangelo, and today it's still one of the main aspects of the basilica. My favorite detail is the facade, which is filled with decors. The most impressive, in my opinion, are the 13 statues on its top. Each one represents an apostle of Jesus, another one represents Saint John Baptist, and the center one represents Jesus Christ. It's almost 6 meters tall, which is about 3 to 4 times the size of. In front of St. Peter's Basilica, you can find St. Peter's Piazza. It was built by Bernini as the main courtyard of the basilica. And if you were to stand in a specific spot on the west of the piazza, you could look at the 284 columns that surround it, and they would disappear behind the first of each row. It's quite an impressive optical illusion, and if you're ever to visit the Vatican, I would suggest you give it a try. Another fun fact about the Vatican is that the army is almost exclusively composed of Swiss guards. This comes from the fact that during the end of the Middle Ages and the beginning of the Renaissance, the Papal States used Swiss mercenaries as their armies. The Swiss mercenaries fought against other European states under the protection of the Papal State. This tradition persevered, and still today you can see Swiss guards with their coloured uniform guarding the Vatican